take. It's going to be
The
fine.
only take. Let's go. Oh, I don't think I titled it. I think I put it in the description. Doesn't matter. We can edit that
Doesn't
afterwards.
matter.
People will see it. Don't matter.
Yeah.
Nah, don't matter. Should have at least shaved.
We live? Oh, we are live.
We're
doesn't
live.
matter. Whatever. Just having a little chat. Oh, hello world. Hello Facebook. Hello, I'm Stuckers. I hope that you are all doing really well on this Thursday afternoon, evening. I am Tamara Payne. I'm joined here with my friend Gregory, and this is episode 2 of Future Story Time. I'm really excited about this. I've had a bit of a day with technology, and we've managed to get the live stream working, which is great. I've put some flowers on my head to brighten myself up, and I'm feeling a bit more perky now, which is good. So without further ado, I should let you know what Future Story Time is in case you didn't catch the other episode. Basically been feeling like with lockdown, you know, there's a lot of feelings of being out of control and just waiting to be told what to do, of course, because we are waiting on medical advice. But I just had this kind of calling, I guess, and impulse to, you know, talk about the law of attraction and about how we are creative spiritual beings, and we still have some creative power in these times. So, you know, when I'm talking about the law of attraction, we're talking about the first kind of stage as we are in this chrysalis, as it were, of time, waiting to see what to do, not taking so much action, perhaps. And so I want to take this time personally to use it to get the first stage of the law of attraction going really crystal clear, getting my visions for what I want going. And I think that it is a really good time to do that. And I know Gregory wanted to chat a bit about this kind of stuff, so I'm really happy to have him here. He's probably got a very different perspective to my first guest that I had, which was my friend Tommy, who's in the world of real estate over in Dubai. Very different world to the world we're living in here. So yeah, welcome Gregory, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. How are you doing?
Thanks for having us. I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, I'm doing good. I also had like my laptop had no battery, so I had a little kerfuffle getting here, but I'm here now, so that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's being a real tester at the moment. But I'm trying to reframe it. I think reframing can be really important, and I'm trying to reframe these things as like challenges and also the potential. It's like, just because I'm not good at this stuff right now doesn't mean I'm not going to be good forever. So that's something to bear in mind, I think, for anyone that's finding this quite challenging, the Zoom, you know, because it's a lot. It is a lot. So Gregory, I'd like you to introduce yourself properly and tell everyone what you're about. What's your job? Like, what are you all about, Greg?
Wow, when you put it that way. I work as a scientist. That's what I get paid to do most of the time. I was trained that way. I'm a Londoner. I was born and raised in London. My parents are Greek Cypriot background. Came here as refugees after a war, and just grew up in London. Always followed science. Always had a spiritual, so to speak, is a way of putting it. Interest in esoterics, interest in ancient history and mythology. So I'm very much a self-taught student of those things as well. And yeah, I'm involved with, I do my own energetic healing, spiritual practices. I follow a form of my own religion, which is basically like a mix of everything. And I enjoy talking about where science and spirituality intersect. I like, I love getting involved with different communities and networks to try and see how we can expand our consciousness on this planet in a real holistic way, not just in a conceptual way or based on old books or based on the ideas that we just keep repeating because we're used to them, but actually trying to see how we can grow and expand every day as individuals, and I hope as a collective, like through this event. Really important time. I think it's a real important period of growth that we're all going through right now, collectively. That's no longer like a woo-woo spiritual thing to say. It's a fact. It's a fact that we're all going through some kind of change and transformation, and are being forced to, not forced, but well, are being invited to look within a lot more. Yeah. But yeah, that's it really.
Yes, I agree. I think this is definitely. Well, thank you very much. That's a very succinct way of you kind of giving us a little description of yourself. Thank you for that. It almost brings up so many questions. So can I just pinpoint for everybody watching, first of all, what science you are kind of specializing in and everything? Am I right in thinking you know a bit about quantum physics?
That's correct. Yeah, I did my undergraduate degree was in chemistry, and so was my PhD. But what's funny is that quantum mechanics people think is physics, but it is physics, but it's also chemistry, it's also biology, it's everything really. But I had to deal a lot with that. Yeah, I learned a lot about that, and I put it into practice. I worked at a particle accelerator in Oxfordshire called the Diamond Light Source for about 4 years. So there you're smashing atoms and electrons and X-rays and stuff at different things, and you get to actually see the quantum effects in things with your own eyes. You experience them as an individual, not just you don't just read it in a book. A lot of time when you learn about quantum mechanics, you're reading it in a book and you're like, okay, I hear you, I don't quite get it, but all right, I have to just take your word for it, this weirdness that you talked about. But I think it makes a real difference as a student once you learn it in that same way like everyone else does, and then to actually end up in a laboratory where you're seeing these real things occurring in front of your eyes, these experiments you set up, and you're like, shit, like this stuff that we learned about, this weird stuff is happening right now in front of our eyes. And that was really interesting to get that perspective. And I think through that, I actually also realized that, in the way I see things in my spiritual journey, that the spiritual journey is in a sense like a personal scientific experiment. Like you observe, you have your theories, you have your ideas, but you also have your observations. And if your ideas, your theories don't match with your observations, then you have to go back and see, reevaluate your ideas, right? Or what your beliefs. And to me, that's the same in science, it's the same in spirituality. It's just about trying to sync up your inner and outer worlds and get to know yourself. And I think, so really, I don't see that, so for me, I see them both as the same thing. They're just a way of exploring and making sense of this strange hallucination that we call life, just from two different directions. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I think is so important that people kind of talk about, is this marriage between science and spirituality. I do want to move on to the law of attraction kind of quickly, yeah, which is all absolutely kind of tied up in all of this. I feel like our conversation is just going to be a big, massive web and not so linear as mine and Tommy's conversation. But
maybe yeah, I'm a bit like that. I'm a bit scattered with my ideas, so that might happen with me, definitely. Yeah,
that's totally fine. Let's be scatterbrains together.
Let's do it.
But yeah, so yeah, it is just like express yourself how you want. The law of attraction is typically woo-woo and a spiritual kind of belief. It's a kind of belief that this is happening, that you put out good energy, you keep positive, and that means that more good things could happen, and vice versa. You could talk about the bad stuff of your day and invite more bad energy in. So in general, people might see it that way. Where do you stand with the law of attraction? What's your journey?
I'm nothing against you saying that, but I don't like that definition. That's often how it is summed up. You're absolutely right. And when it's taken as just like a snippet like that, of a sentence or a phrase, it can often get easily abused or misrepresented, misinterpreted by a lot of people. I think it's a good way of summing it up, but I don't think it reflects necessarily the truth of the process. So I think this is a great opportunity to talk about that. So, thanks for that question, and thanks for this opportunity to talk, because this is the thing. So this idea of law of attraction, that we bring into our lives certain things. That a lot of people, they sum it up in this, high vibration, or this, positive outlook, that if you're positive, you bring in positive things, if you're negative, you bring in negative things. Now, if you just take that as it is, summed up, that allows a lot of space for blame, self-blame. You can end up blaming yourself and being like, wait a minute, so does that mean that every time something bad happened, it was my fault? That outlook can often lead to more pain and more spiraling, suffering for an individual. So there, it can be quite toxic, I think, sometimes, when people just focus on that concept. And I see a lot of that online and stuff personally. And I think, and it's not about, and we have to avoid bypassing, spiritual bypassing. We have to avoid, you see, I believe the spiritual journey is about acknowledging and integrating your shadow in a big way, right? And thus expanding the reach of your consciousness. And so
let's break that down for a second. Let's break that down really quickly. So, dealing with the shadow, we're talking about things about ourselves that perhaps we don't like, or perhaps the darker side of human behavior in general. So whatever that may be for you, just kind of wanted to define that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people might not be familiar with some of these terms, but yeah, so that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it's the part of you that you're not very conscious of. It's often the part of you that does things you would like to think you don't do, or you don't want to do. It's the part, we call it the shadow. Yeah, that darker part of you, let's say. It's also the part that probably we can, it's that part of your unconscious that you're not quite aware of or integrating, right? You're not owning it, okay? And if you don't own a part of you that might have the potential to be naughty, then it ends up, often these things end up running you instead of you running them, right? So you end up acting from that place and doing things that you then regret, or if you find yourself in the same situations again, that frustrate you or whatever.
It's like taking control. Yeah.
Exactly. So again, so it's, that's the shadow. What were we talking about? Drifted off.
we were talking about the law of attraction and this idea of it being a bit woo-woo, and what I really want to get to is your beliefs on that, and how much do you think it is founded in science now? How much is it proven? For those atheists out there, for all those non-spiritual people, I just want people, my message really, if I was going to give out a message, which, I'm more interested in just having an interesting conversation, but I want people to know that they've got this creative power, that things aren't just happening to them right now. And that's a good thing, because you can use it. Exactly. So I guess I'm just interested in kind of people knowing that it is scientifically proven, I guess.
Well, I would say it's not scientifically proven at the moment, but that's the problem with it's not proven scientifically. But then again, it might be a concept that can't be proven scientifically, and that's another thing. Like, a lot of things can't be proven scientifically. It's not, science is not an answer for everything. It really isn't. For some reason, that's the narrative our society has right now, though. That many people have replaced the trust in God that used to be in old religion with a trust in science, again, unquestioning and not bothering to learn much about it, right? So what we're doing is we're giving our authority away when we do that, okay? Because the only authority in one's life, I believe, is oneself. The only person I ever really have to listen to is myself. There's no one else I owe that to. I don't owe that to anyone, to listen to them, really. I mean, I do in terms of compassion, but as in, like, my decisions are my own. If I decide to, even if I do decide to listen to someone else's opinion or advice, that's me deciding to listen to them, and then follow that. So really, that means we can't blame anyone.
You are in the driving seat and all that.
You're in the driving seat. So in that sense, we are totally responsible for ourselves. And people don't like to face that fact often. But the reality is we are totally responsible for ourselves. And when we take that on board, truly, and that's when I think we can use this thing that people call the law of attraction, right? When we recognize that when we want to change our lives or try something different, or we're frustrated at this old behavior that we see repeating in our lives, I often think it's one way of looking at it is you have ingrained beliefs. Not just we all have ingrained beliefs that sometimes might not be for our best good, right? They might be based on trauma from childhood or from some event that happened. It might be based from the way you were treated badly by someone. It might be based on the way you've been treating yourself or someone else badly without, unconsciously for a long time. Therefore, you create a relationship that you see as a certain way. And we're trapped in our own beliefs. We're trapped in our own thoughts, and this is why meditation has been so important in Eastern spirituality and now Western, is this concept that actually our thoughts create more trouble a lot of the time than solve anything. So the less we focus on these concepts and narratives that we have inside, the more we stop and slow down and go inwards and just try and, or go outwards even, just try and listen and watch and meditate and observe without being present. That's what they call it, right? A lot of people, I guess, being present. That's
definitely.
That's important, and from that place of presence, we can step out of these stories we tell ourselves all the time. I'll never be able to do that. For example, like I'll never be able to, whatever. I'll never be able to. Give us an example.
Meditate.
Meditate, that's a great one. Right.
I can't meditate, I can't do that, I can't focus, I can't sit still, I can't do that, that's not me.
I see.
Stories that we tell ourselves.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly, that's a perfect one, yeah. So I can't meditate, or I can't dance, I can't ride a bike, I can't whatever. If you say to yourself you can't do these things, then the fact remains you won't be able to do them, right? Anything Correct. You think that you've been successful in your life, you might have had doubts at times, you might have been scared, right? But the fact remains, throughout that process, there was part of you that believed you could do it in the end, right? And then you ended up doing it. And when you look back at your life, that's the case with everything. Anything you've said you can't do, you haven't done. And you think, wait a minute, it seems almost too simple to be true.
There's
right?
a link here.
There's a link here. Yeah. It's like, wow, if I tell myself I can't do something, I'll never do it. So in a sense, we have real control over our abilities and what happens in our lives in that respect, without having to introduce any external factors, that's just us and our consciousness. And yeah. I remember, and this guy called Faust, who wrote, was it Goethe who wrote Faust? You might know more literature about this. Anyway, German guy. He wrote the whole thing.
Dear. Never mind.
Yeah. He wrote The Sorcerer's Apprentice, right? Basically, what Fantasia is based on, right? The whole Sorcerer's Apprentice goes and causes chaos, right? And in that book, there's a line which says, magic is believing in yourself. If you can do that, you can do anything, right? And I think that's a great phrase. It's
and also abracadabra. Sorry, I just want to say, because I always remember this. Abracadabra means I speak it into existence. Yeah. Like what I say happens. That's what abracadabra means. Like exactly. It's just amazing. I just think it's so true as well. What you can literally speak stuff into existence. That is what we can all do. That's the power that we all have.
Absolutely. That's spell casting, isn't it? I cast a spell, a word.
Yeah. We can all cast spell.
Yeah. Exactly. And we're all under our own spell. We're all under our own spell. And whether we know it or not, we're always telling ourselves what we can and can't do. There's this voice in our head. It's, could be our ego. A lot of people equate it with that, the part of you that is looking out for you and trying to protect you. And therefore its job is to doubt and be cynical and be that overly protective kind of thing and project, and that's its job. So ego gets a lot of flack in spiritual community too, and it's like it's your ego is always going to be there if you're a living, breathing human interacting with other people. Your ego, an aspect of it's always going to exist.
I find this very important as well, the ego thing. It's like we need to make friends with our ego, because if we're in this physical reality, your ego helps you to define yourself with other things, okay, it might go into a negative space, but that's actually what it's doing. It's saying, I am me, that is that. And it's really, really important. I think the whole thing around the ego is fascinating, and I want to read more on that. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, there's people can get lost in this stuff forever. There's so many, and I love it. I mean, that's one of the things I love doing, is reading different myths and stories from around the world, and realizing that and when you do that, you recognize that these myths and stories, they're talking about us as well. They're talking about these gods and monsters are beings, are parts of ourselves, right? And I think one thing that I want to go into in the future actually is talking more about this kind of mythology, because in a sense, science is a mythology, right? It's a story that we tell ourselves to explain things in our life, right? And it does a fantastic job at the physical things, right? At predicting even. It's so fantastic, it can even predict the future, right? It's in a sense, science is so magical in that way, right? Because you can think about it. Think about what scientists actually do when you break it down. They open the sacred books, right? They look at the weird symbols, right? The equations and stuff, yeah? They do all that, right? They make weird diagrams, right? And invoke all these old scientists' spirits, right? That's really what they do. And then they do a thing, and they either create something new that never existed, that was purely in someone's imagination, or they discover something new, or they change matter, or whatever, right? Or they extend someone's life. Or so when you think about it, it's pure magic, really. Science. We sterilize.
Actually, I want to jump on this. You know, what you're talking about in terms of like what scientists do and the magic that they kind of create, it's a lovely way of describing what they do, especially when new things are discovered, is that the process starts in here. Before anything is in front of us, it's in the mind. So that to me scientifically proves that the law of attraction is real, because we are creating. You have the idea for something, and then it comes into existence, whatever that may be. So that's really interesting. And I also want to just pick up on your meditation point, because I think for me that's been such a game changer with the law of attraction. You know, if you do want to use the law of attraction and you want to be in command of your thoughts, instead of your mind just running away with you in negative cycles, running away with you, which still happens to me. But the point is, now with meditation, I can see it coming, I can see that it's happening, and I can recognize those thoughts, and I can stop it early. So if I'm on a negative loop, or just, you know, my inner voice is saying that I did something wrong, or whatever it is, I'm down on myself, now I catch it. And I can go, oh, okay, this is happening. I want to go onto a happier frequency, or whatever, however you want to describe it. I just want to feel good. I don't want to feel bad. Keep it simple. So in order to feel good, I recognize that, and then I change my tack. So whatever it is that you need to do to feel good, then you can do. But if you don't have that first step of being able to disconnect, see the thought, be the viewer of the thought, be the observer, then you haven't got hope in hell, I don't think, of practicing the law of attraction very well, because you're not in command of your thoughts. So I think I just want to say that, like, meditation for me has been a huge game changer in awareness of what's going on in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You can be absolutely. One of the ways I like to think about it is, first of all, one thing I want to say is you can't stop yourself from feeling bad, right? Or from feeling a negative emotion. You can't stop yourself from doing that. You can observe it, like you say, recognize it, and then you end up not spiraling into it. That's very true. But trying to stop emotion is not healthy. But when you recognize that, you can see it, as you say, when you meditate.
There's a difference. It's like, you know, between toxic positivity, which I've definitely experienced myself. When I first read The Secret 10 years ago, I was like, right, I'm just going to be positive all the time. I'm just going to always have good thoughts, and everything's going to be great. And what happens is you suppress emotions, and they come out years later, maybe. So now I've learned with therapy as well, it's like, see it, feel it, let it go, just like you do in meditation. If you have a thought come in your head, you don't get annoyed. You think, oh yeah, there's a thought, hello, it's a guest in your house, and then you let it leave out the back door or the front door and then you can go on to something else healthily.
Exactly. You can look beyond it. You can move beyond it once you allow it, once you recognize it, allow it to pass. Exactly. You knowing that it's all going to change. Totally. That's exactly it. So as you say, yeah, meditation is good at that, and is very key to that. So you can, it helps you do that, because it helps you find your center. Because we do have this sounds abstract, and it's something that's not scientific, but it's experiential. Is that we have a center. There is something in us which feels like our middle, right? And it's like, and that feels like where we emanate from, right? It could be, a lot of people place it in the heart space, right? And so when we acknowledge a negative emotion arising, right? When something external happens, or say something negative that happens externally that you don't want to happen, and then you start feeling that, you start feeling angry or negative or or upset.
Yeah, worried, anxious, sad.
Or anxious, right. So if you then force yourself to act from that place while you're feeling that strong emotion, chances are what you're going to do is not the best. It's not going to be the best response, right? If you're acting from that overwhelm of emotion, right? You're probably going to, in some way, think back to that and be like, did I do that? Or did I, or whatever.
Could have done better.
Or you're going to have to reinforce some other narrative to defend yourself for whatever stupid thing you did, right? And then you just get into even more like trouble, right?
Making excuses, yeah.
Right.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there, right?
Now, I would like to ask you your opinion on something that is kind of sort of tied in with this.
Yeah.
So we've talked about with the law of attraction that if you got to kind of take responsibility for your thoughts and your actions, and the general belongings aren't happening to you, that you have kind of manifested what's going on. So with that in mind, it's a very interesting point. Most people that really teach this, that have been teaching this for years, say that everything is on you. Everything is on you, and you've got to get that into your head.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that in terms of like big world events? Because there's obviously this spiritual element of like, if an earthquake happens, if coronavirus happens, have we collectively attracted this in our collective conscience? And do you believe in a collective conscience?
Yes, I very much believe in the collective conscious. I think science is at the we're probably at the edge where we're going to start investigating it more and discovering it more. I think it's taken a long time for these concepts to bleed back, let's say, but basically ideas from science and spirituality are bleeding back into each other right now. That's where we are, like, as a society. It's really fascinating. I didn't think I'd see it so much in my lifetime, actually, honestly, even when I was just 10 years ago when I started uni, but so when we say you actually create everything, right? That's a fact. That is actually true. But the you I'm talking about isn't necessarily you, Tamara in Pain, and it isn't necessarily me, Gregory Warrior. It's the you that is beyond that. It's not equated with our mortal incarnations, right? It's God or whatever. It's the divine. It's the source. It's the oversoul, right? It's this idea that, if there was just pure consciousness at the beginning of the universe, there was a whole single being that knew and was able to do everything, it would also be the most lonely being in the world, right? So this idea that God basically shattered himself.
I know that feeling in lockdown.
Right? We've been getting used to that, right?
Sorry, go on.
No, totally. Yeah, it's a very good point. So there you go.
Split myself in half.
Right. Split yourself in half so you can have a mate. I mean, that's what I mean. So this is a perfect myth for our times, really, for where we find ourselves, right? And so that first split into left and right could be thought of as the yin and yang, or the masculine and feminine, the Shiva Shakti. That the Brahman, the overgod, like cut himself into a male and a female so that they could interact. so they could love each other. It couldn't love or know because there was nothing beyond itself, right? There's nothing beyond yourself. How can you love or know anything unless you've got something to love or know, right? So to speak. So if the universe was this eternal, unbroken, infinite source at some point where, you know, with no difference, talking hypothetically, but you can also talk about before the Big Bang and equate that with the same thing as well, right? Something had to happen. There had to be a shattering of that everythingness, because everythingness is also nothingness. You understand? If you get me? You can't make sense of anything. The ancient Greeks,
because existence, to me, I've had this kind of realization, or I read it and it made so much sense of like existence. You exist in relation. So that's also something interesting in lockdown. If you are on your own, it's like sometimes I feel like a ghost because I've got no one to validate my existence, and that kind of almost experientially proves to me that point, you know? Yeah.
Right. No, totally. Exactly. So we've all felt this at times, you know, and we know this feeling. And so it's part of being human, you know, is knowing this deep down inside, feeling this and knowing this truth, that we're all alone together, so to speak, quite sweetly and quite strangely, right? So like in the beginning, there was what the ancient Greeks called chaos. In one of the ancient Greek mythologies, they say in the beginning was chaos, right? And chaos in Greek means no direction, expanse, void, right? Abyss. And from chaos came the world egg, and from the world egg came was hatched basically the light, and then the light split into the earth and the sky. You had Mother Earth and you had Father Sky, the first gods, the first titans, right, on this earth. And they had all sorts of like, you know, weird incestual god sex, and then they made everything else, right?
Galactic sex.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. But when you think about it and you look at science again, so that's trying to describe like a real kind of spiritual and also internal kind of way of understanding these things. But science has done much the same. We have the similar kind of, in the beginning, there was the infinite singularity, that was everything and nothing. Again, you know, we're back to the same kind of language, right? Okay, where there was no time and no space. Again, it's the same kind of language. And then an expansion happened where you created time and space, which are equal and opposite, you know, and through the interaction of time and space, then you have this energy, and the energy condensed to form galaxies and, you know, the hydrogen and whatever, and all the elements and the stars exploding, and you get a story. And then you realize when you look at the myths and then you look at the science, they're the same kinds of stories happening again. There might be more maths in one of them, but it's the same kind of stories. So we're just repeating the same stuff over and over again. We've known a lot of this, but we you know, people talk about remembering, you know, we've known a lot of this deep down inside in maybe a way that we haven't been able to articulate in a long time. So we used stories back in the day, and now we're using science, but the connection we're missing.
Yes, and I honestly, I think that it's actually really, sorry, it's a bit of a delay. It's really helpful for us to have these stories told in a mathematical way, in a scientific way, because it makes complete sense. And like you say, you see the parallels. And I think the way that our minds work nowadays, it rings true. But when you see those parallels, it is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to bring it back down to lockdown, to where we are now, and how, I guess my question is, with all this law of attraction stuff, like, I guess that you have been practicing it for quite a while. How have you found kind of dealing with lockdown with that? Have you found that it's gone out the window, or have you managed to have a hold on your thoughts? Because really it's about your feelings and your thoughts on a very basic level.
It's a good question. Yeah, absolutely. It's about your feelings and your thoughts on a basic level. And like we said earlier, it's about not reacting to those emotional overwhelms, but responding from a place of contentment and from a heart space, from compassion, right? For yourself and for other people. And yeah, I've had my ups and downs throughout this whole process as well. You know, all sorts, about personal things, about the world, about all sorts, you know. But I am owning, I'm trying my best to own it, right? And make the most of a situation, right? You know, I can sit here and just be depressed and angry about everything I can't do, or I can go, right, maybe I can't do those certain things that I really want to do, but maybe there's something else I can try. Maybe I can pick up that thing that I haven't done for a while and do that. Or maybe I can, instead of researching all the conspiracy theories and how angry everyone is and how many people are dying every day, why don't I research about gardening and permaculture and new energy and new forms of social interaction, all this kind of stuff, and actually train myself to start doing better things when I get out of this situation. You know what I mean? It's like I have a choice here. I can either dive into the things that I know are going to upset me more, or I can go into the things that, hey, maybe I'll find some kind of, not necessarily an escapism, still in reality, I'm going to try and find something that I think is positive and that I can grow from, rather than contracting into my fear about the situation. And
and I think that's so important. We have a choice. That's something with you know, wanting to manifest and the law of attraction and all the rest of it. You're kind of manifesting all the time with your thoughts and your feelings all the time, whatever frequency you're on. And just want to give a big reminder out there to everyone that, you know, every moment you have a choice, and we have a big choice in this time what we focus on, whether that's how much you're watching the news, like you say, following the death count, or, you know, Googling like I did the other day. I Googled about looking after goats because I'm like, right, I'm going to live on this permaculture farm one day. What's something really fun that I can research for like half an hour? And I was watching YouTube videos about like what to feed goats.
That's awesome. Now you're set. Now you're set. You're set now. If you find a goat like after lockdown, you know what I mean? Just like on your way, you're like, I know what to come with me. You know, you can adopt him, a stray goat, and then you're sorted now. See what I mean? See, this is law of attraction again, right? You've researched the goat stuff.
Yeah.
So now, if you see a goat, that goat is part of your life. Whereas before, there would have just been a goat. Now you know how to raise this goat.
And I would have been an outsider looking in.
Exactly, going, I could never raise a goat. I wouldn't even know what to feed that goat. But now, current timeline Tamarin is like, I'm a goat expert. Bring on the goats.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. I can give you top tips. Pumpkin seeds, they love them. Really good for them. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. You could sit there eating pumpkin seeds with your goat. You could eat them together. That's awesome.
But you know, this is the thing, like we can definitely bring lightness, and as humans we have this free will, we have this conscious. Big dark things might be happening. You know, you're sat in your house or your flat or whatever, you have choice over what you do with your day, and that you have power over still. And we've got to take whatever bits of power we can at this point, because I think everyone might be feeling quite disempowered and quite like zero energy, and it's valid, but we do have a choice. And we can change that in our homes. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that's important. Yeah. Yeah. So
I want to move on to the. Oh, sorry. Go on, Greg.
No, please go on.
Go. Are you sure?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, this aspect of, I'm a bit scatterbrained, but were you asking earlier about this attracting and repelling things, you know, in life, and whether it's all created for ourselves, or whether we attracted this coronavirus thing in? It's like, well, our greater selves might have, and our greater selves is not something we can understand rationally with our own heads and our own egos and our own. We don't get that. So there's no point blaming yourself as an individual for anything, for attracting negative stuff. It's about going, this is the way it is, you know, this is the way it is. This is the flow of the universe. I am part of that universe and I can never be separate from it. So in that respect, yes, I'm doing it myself. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, rather than going, no, no, it's your fault, Greg, that you didn't get that thing, or it's your fault that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not my fault. What it means is me as Gregory might have to readjust the way I see myself in the world to get with that flow that the greater me is doing, that the bigger universe wants for me. You know what I mean? That more divine intelligence.
Yes.
Right?
So there's a difference. So maybe there's a difference there between the big life events collectively. We didn't manifest them with our thoughts as
No.
Tammy and Greg, but a lined up bigger consciousness that we can't understand. Whereas things in your own personal life, maybe things more closer to home, you did.
Yeah.
Because you were thinking about it, and you either reacted in a way that you should or not. So there's a difference there with levels of consciousness. Yeah.
Exactly. And in quantum mechanics, you learn that the question you ask determines the answer you'll receive, right? Which is something that was a bit weird for the scientists to discover. They thought, oh, reality is the way it is, and we just come in and measure it, right? And quantum mechanics said, no, actually, your decision to measure something changed reality to allow you to measure it. And it's like, whoa, yeah. So it's like, how does that work? So the universe is more dreamlike, than we ever correspond. Yeah. And so it's like, if this is happening physically with actual physical things, not just, like, it's happening with atoms that we consider to make up the solid stuff of the world, the real stuff, but it's like, also the image in my head is more real actually than the thing I'm holding, in a sense, you know what I mean? So the world internally is just as real as the world external. There's no difference. This glass I'm seeing this image of this glass inside my head, even though it exists outside of me. That's where it's happening, right? It's all the neurons in my brain that's seeing this, It's not really...
It's in relationship, the perception in your mind and the physical.
Exactly. Everything we're seeing is just a projection of the sensory input we're getting, right? So when we change our...
You know what? That is a very big... Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say that is a very big idea. And I think that is something that I have yet to really wrap my head around, because I know it is something that is kind of scientifically agreed upon now, and it's like the way things are, but it is so difficult to really understand that deeply. You can kind of understand it on the surface, but yeah, it's a big... Right. Oh, it's a big old concept. Yeah.
It's massive. Yeah.
So
it's massive.
Now I would like us to do a bit of future storytelling. So this is kind of what these episodes all lead up to, is kind of talking about the fact that we are these conscious beings, that we do create our reality, that everything, we've kind of touched on that everything comes from the mind first. So the inventor thinks of it and then it comes into the physical. So with that in mind, I think I've mentioned this earlier, but I feel like lockdown is a kind of forced upon us chrysalis. So we're sort of in this chrysalis, and we can get it really clear in our heads what we want when we come out of lockdown and what we want to manifest for our futures, whether that's immediate or long term, but we can really give it some good time. And I wondered if there's anything that you're sort of visualizing for your future, your personal future, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's something. So like I said earlier, there's like I'm looking at how I can tell the stories I know to an audience. I'd like to speak more about this kind of stuff in terms of not just science, but the old mythology and all that stuff. And so I'm looking for new ways of telling myself. I'm looking forward to writing more. I'm looking forward to speaking more in public. I'm looking forward to I've got a new job that's coming up in a month, which is great. I'm moving to London. I'm working at a university there. So I'm moving house. I've actually got a lot of stuff coming in at this time of slowdown. I'm actually having a huge personal shift as well in my life. And it's all kind of happened at once as well, which is really weird and odd, but just got to roll with it, basically. I'm very grateful for it. And I think that's the key. If we can sit down right now and find that gratitude, actually, no matter what's going on for us, because I know so many people are going through such a hard time, lots of people losing their jobs, people that are ill, people, you know,
People dying, man. Like it's dark.
man. People dying, you know. And but it doesn't matter, no matter what is happening to us, we can always, I think probably the most powerful spiritual tool actually at times of where I feel at a loss is to find our gratitude again. If we can sit down in everything we don't have and everything we've lost, if we can sit down and remember everything we do have and everything we can find still, all right, and just be grateful for the fact that we're even alive, you know, and everything else. If we can really find that feeling, that's the best way to reset and just grow again. You know, when you feel like you're like contracting, if you can find that gratitude, for me personally, that's always been the best way I found my way back out of the darkness. Always.
I was going to say it's a great resetter if you want to change course. I've definitely used, you know, like I've read The Secret, I've read The Power of Now, but also a book about gratitude and just doing a gratitude diary when I've been in really dark times of just getting up and writing what I'm grateful for. And it sounds cliche, but you can think of things. I'm grateful that I have my health, or I'm grateful that the sun is shining. Like these things are big as well. And taking the time over that is really important. Yeah. I'm trying to think what future story I'm sort of telling for myself. I touched on last time about this permaculture sort of hippie heaven that I imagine myself living in, and
that's in my 5-year plan really too. Actually, keep me on that. That's in my 5-year plan too. Yeah,
we got to link
5
up.
years. I've got 5-year plan where in 5 years I want to be living. I want to be with a community that I love and that I trust.
Yes.
With some land, and that doesn't mean I don't necessarily want to run away from society right now completely, or even then. But I want to have a space that can feel like home, and that I think a lot of people can share in that, and try and build this different way of living, sustaining. Anyway, please, Tamron, I want to hear more.
Yeah. No. I mean, we're in alignment. It's tip top, and I don't want to repeat myself. So that's a personal thing for me. Another future story, another more practical future story that I'm telling myself is about some working from home stuff that I am actually taking some inspired action to do. I'm ordering stuff and I'm making it happen. But the point is about the future story is I can see myself, and I am seeing myself working from home, not having to travel into central London so much to do what I do, because some of it I can do from home. So I'm seeing myself doing that, which is definitely a positive thing. And now the other part, I'm just as aware we might get cut off after an hour, so I'm just gonna I'm doing a quick fire. But the last thing really is future story, but not for your personal story, for the collective. So for example, a future story I'm telling and kind of visioning is a little bit of a death of celebrity culture. And this is kind of like not plucked out of thin air, like with lockdown.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? You're seeing it, right?
I have to say, I'm not seeing so many, like maybe it's just me not tuning in so much, but the death of celebrity culture a bit, you know, when we are a bit more aware now that, you know, a lot of us have financially been put in the stressful situation, and all these people are lauding it up and stuff. And you know, obviously there's always going to be probably a certain level of inequality. I'm not saying that we should just all be bots with the same stuff, but a bit of this death of like toxic celebrity culture where we just fawn over these people. And what I'm really enjoying is seeing this blossoming of other people just creating content and just kind of exploring during lockdown their talents and putting them out there and being brave. You know, my friend did a gardening show, you do a cookery show, you know, these things where you don't need to be a celebrity, you can just watch, and it's really endearing. So that's
beautiful. Absolutely. I mean, again, for the collective, I think we're gonna see a lot of change from this event that people aren't even acknowledging yet. I think we can't see it from where we are now because we're still in it. But I think on the other side, there's going to be so much that's going to have to change, because a lot has been shown to be not fit for purpose, whether it's the way we look after our National Health Service, or the way we rely on food that's grown from so far away. But one of the things for me is, and I've got a bit of a block. I dislike economics, right, and stuff, right. Finance, and that doesn't, for me, I don't get it. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't. I've never understood it, and I don't get why it's the way it is. And no one's ever been able to explain that to me, right, in even a fractionally satisfactory level. Okay, so what I think this event's done is it's also revealed that that system is, again, just a narrative. It's just a narrative. It's not, there's no reality in it beyond that. It's just a narrative, yeah. And it's not even a narrative. We created it, and it's a boring story of just like numbers and lists of people and companies. That's boring. It's not a good story, yeah. It doesn't have any moral fiber. Doesn't have any idealism. Doesn't have any hero, and it doesn't have any. It doesn't have
any moral fiber at the moment. But it can do, if you know, we need the economy to trade and to work worldwide. However, I've read sacred economics and things with zero interest economies, negative interest economies. I just wanted to jump in and say that, because I'm with you on the current economic model. No, that's it.
Yeah,
you know, everyone read sacred economics.
I'm going to read that book. I'm going to buy that
Charles
book
Eisenstein's great book.
Yeah, cool.
Read it,
thanks,
man.
Thanks, I will definitely check it out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Buddhist economics, I've heard of that. Like, you know, and like, and there's a lot of change actually happening now. Like, there's that the Prime Minister of New Zealand, I forget her name. She seems really fantastic. There's a lot of positive stuff that she's doing. What's that?
Jacinda something, I think. I'm
Jacinda?
not sure.
Is it Jacinda? Cool. Let's go with that. So she's been doing like awesome stuff. Yeah, following stuff like that, trying to put people's welfare above. In fact, even in The Guardian yesterday, there was an article saying, a poll done saying, Britons put well-being and welfare above economic output for the first time. Like in a poll, people were saying, no, this is more important. Yeah, it's kind of shocking to think that it's taken us this long to admit this as a society, but yeah, anyway, point is, that was in the paper, and I'm like, that's a crazy thing to read in a paper, in a sense, you know, like, for me, being raised in this country, that's mad. The narrative,
well, considering how right-wing the papers are as well, it is very impressive.
Very impressive. So this is what I mean. I think the people are discovering their own power. They're slowing down. They're able to listen to themselves a bit more. That we're having to work out our own way through this fog of opinion and disinformation and God knows what's going on, you know. At the same time, we've got the very real suffering that's occurring, and the real fear, the genuine, you know, valid fear for people's lives, you know. But at the same time, we've got people coming together. So really, it's just such a chrysalis day, like you say, and it's like it's spring, like it was Beltane recently, and you know, yeah, I really felt that spring energy. I really felt that change coming, you know, that there's a real, everyone can sit right now and look at the spring, just see what's happening, get in touch with the weather changes, get in touch with their emotional changes. You know, when you're sitting at home for so long in isolation, you do notice your emotional fluctuations more. You can't help it, right? When you're not busying yourself with other stuff, you can sit there, when you're sitting bored, you notice when you feel a bit irritated, or you notice when suddenly you feel relaxed and actually quite open, and how it changes throughout the day. So I think it's very true that we are going through a collective change, a shift, but it's up to us to be responsible and walk our walk, you know, and talk our talk. So like, you know, when we start getting out of here, you know, coming together and making that new world, reminding people, me for example, I'm going to be reminding people how broken the economic system is, and how this is the case now, that you can't ignore it, right? You can't ignore it. For example, we should all be, there should be such a crash of the financial situation right now. Think about it. Everything has shut in the whole world, almost. Not right, I'm exaggerating, but right, half the world is shut down for like 2 months. Yeah, half the world is shut down for 2 months, right? All the stock markets have crashed. all these companies have run out of money. Everyone's put everything on hold, right? Governments have just found money from nowhere yet again, right? Again, giving it to the
Suddenly there's a magic money tree, isn't there? Suddenly.
Clearly there's a magic money tree, right? And it's like, let me put it this way, okay, other times things a fraction this big happened, money used to fluctuate. The pound should be worth nothing right now, right? The pound should be worth nothing right now. It should cost us £40,000 to buy a cup of coffee. I mean, I'm talking if economics, the economic story that everyone's been feeding to me my whole life is correct, and we kept in that system, we should be starving in the streets now because of a massive depression. That's not happening. Why? Because people's survival is more important than some stupid game. And the government we as a society have collectively agreed to go with that narrative to save people's lives instead of the old narrative of what these numbers mean. Yeah. Why? Because it's clearly the right thing to do. So it also brings hope to me as a human in this crazy society, going, hey, look, you see how we can put these systems on hold when we need to. Yeah. The question now becomes, can we get rid of them now? Now that we've shown that we don't need them, can we actually push them out?
Yeah. So a future story that you're telling is economic reform. Yeah,
a world where we can
big
economic reform. But but more than that, I just want to live in a world where we can all really own our wisdom and compassion and share that with each other. Beyond that, I think we can live. I think we're in a world that we've never been more connected. We've never been more educated. We've never had more resources, more energy, more free time. We've never had, think about it, than ever in the fucking history ever of this planet, right?
Yeah.
So time is ripe. It's never been a better time to change stuff, ever. So
listen, time is now. And actually this wisdom sharing you're talking of is happening right now. And that's what I'm getting from you, Gregory. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's awesome. So oh, well, it's my pleasure. I like to end this weird chat show thing that I have created from my mind. With
from your mind, you manifested this shit, yo.
Quick meditation. Indeed. So everyone that's watching, and thank you so much for tuning in. Gregory, do we have any questions? Can you check? Because you're on your laptop.
Oh, yeah, let me go to let's check that. Yeah, we've gone a bit over, but that doesn't matter too much, does it? Let's have a look.
What I'll do is we'll go to questions, and then what I like to do is finish with a very quick meditation. So people that are watching, even if you've never meditated before, it's going to be literally like under a minute. So it's super simple, but I have heard, I can't remember where now, that if you focus on an image, on something you want for, I think it's like over 17 seconds or something, that it has a greater chance of manifesting. And I guess it's just about concentration of thought. And I think it's a really simple and easy thing to do.
Yeah,
so that's how I like to finish.
Nice.
Are there any questions?
I couldn't, I'm trying to be honest, I'm trying to look, Cameron, and I can't find it.
Oh, well then don't worry. No, it's okay. I can answer them on the next episode.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, that's fine then. I didn't really invite people to ask questions actually at the beginning, so no biggie. So
cool.
Okay, good. Right. Well, thank you so much, everyone that has been watching.
Yeah, I was just saying, just check out my Facebook page, Alchemyst ALC, Alchemyst with a Y. If anyone's interested in like getting in contact or anything like that, just check that out. I can post it at the bottom later.
What is it called? Alchemyst what?
Alchemyst but spelt with a Y. ALCHEMYST.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
On Facebook, brilliant. Okay, that I'm sure that people will want to check you out. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. All right, guys. So let's try a tiny meditation. I want you to just take a nice big breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Just let everything melt. Let your shoulders sink down. Feel your bottom on the chair or wherever you are. Know that in this moment you don't need to do anything. And if there's something that you would like to happen in your life, or perhaps it's something for the world, whatever it is, I'd like you to take a minute now just to see it and get it really clear in your head what this thing is, and see yourself there or with it or whatever it is. See every detail and imagine how you would feel if this was true, if it was happening and it was yours. And just for this moment, just live it. And know that that is there for you at any time to go back to and meditate on. And know that you have just meditated and that you don't need to be taught how to meditate. So if you'd like to open your eyes.
That was awesome.
I'm just, I'm really, really grateful that the technology worked and we're here and we had that conversation. So thank you so much, Greg. Thank you Tammy. Alchemyst on Facebook with a Y.
Thanks, Tammy.
We'll put it in the comments. All right, I'm going to end this meeting. Big love to you all. Stay healthy, stay safe. Mwah. Bye.